This is an RX 580 2048 SP edition graphics card that I paid a little bit, way too much for, but I mean like look at this. Why wouldn't I buy it, right? Now let's cue the intro and get to the video. Today's video is sponsored by me. By going to my website and buying my computers locally, you are not only able to help me in my YouTube journey, you are also getting yourself a really great deal, as well as a super aesthetic gaming computer for your new setup. So if you enjoy my content, go check out the website I have linked in the description. Now let's get to the video.
Hey, what is going on everybody? Welcome back to the most underrated tech channel. And in today's video, I'll be once again testing out this amazing RX 580 2048 SP 8GB graphics card. This GPU is a all-white triple fan version with a very cool anime girl design on it. And it costed me about 110 Canadian dollars shipped to my doors from AliExpress. And at the time of editing, all the RX 500 series graphics card drivers are now considered legacy drivers. So I wouldn't recommend you to pay any more than 50 Canadian dollars going into 2024. Something I have to throw out there right now is that these older AMD cards were crazy value for the crypto miners, so most used ones out there, or those quote-unquote new ones from AliExpress, were probably mined with and probably gone through more than one mining cycle. So just be careful with that information if you will. Anyways, for those of you that don't know, the RX 580 was a graphics card from AMD which came back all the way in 2017, which was around 6 years ago. And back then, this was an amazing price to performance 8GB graphics card. And then a year later, the 2048 SP version came out quietly but only in Asian countries. With the second version, everything is identical to the very first RX 580. Instead of the full 2304 shading unit on the original card, the second one only comes with 2048 shading units, which, I mean, if you haven't guessed it by now, is why it's called 2048 SP. But with that said, that means this graphics card I have on hand performs similar to an RX 570 instead of the actual 580. And for you NVIDIA fanboys out there, the performance is basically a GTX 1060 6GB or a GTX 970 8GB, yes, those are real, or a GTX 1650 Super. Anyways, let's talk about today's test bench. This time around, I'll be using this all-white gaming PC, which includes a Ryzen 5 5500 6 cores 12-threaded CPU, which is cooled by a Johnsbo CR1400 Evo cooler, a kit of 32GB rated at 3600 MHz of DDR4 memory, along with a 1TB Gen 3 NVMe drive, which are all slotted on this Maxsun B450M motherboard and are all powered by this ASA 550W non-modular 80+ bronze power supply, which also got a custom white and cyan cable extension plugged in, which are all planted inside this DIY PC Q1 white PC case. Also, this build, by the time you see this video, would have been sold for 1,000 Canadian dollars with an RTX 3060 Ti white graphics card from Zotac. Now, before we get into testing, as you can see, the driver version is 23.9.2, which is the previous version than the one that's currently up on the AMD website right now, which also means that I recorded everything before the OG Fortnite update came out. But the performance shouldn't vary that much, except for maybe Fortnite because the map is different. First up, I ran a 3D Mark TimeSpy, and the score this graphics card was able to achieve on the system was 3,640. This is not a bad score for this little graphics card if I paid $50 for it, but I did not. Now, for the first game, I tested a GTA 5 with the built-in benchmark with everything on high, but only with FXAA turned on and not MSAA. This Waifu graphics card was able to crank out an average of 105 FPS. Next up, I tested in Fortnite at DX12 with Pro to competitive settings. This GPU was able to crank out an average of 114 FPS with a 1% low of 70 FPS. And this performance was before the Fortnite OG updates, so you should expect similar performance in the Chapter 5 update. Next up, I tested in Apex Legends at the low settings with no anti-aliasing or upscaling technology. This graphics card was able to crank out an average of 78 FPS with a 1% low of 53 FPS. And while talking about Apex Legends, this will be the third to last benchmark I'll be doing for Apex Legends in 2023, because at the start of 2024 I'll be benchmarking the finals instead of Apex Legends. Now for CS2, I tested in high preset with no upscaling technology. This graphics card was only able to crank out an average of 92 FPS with a 1% low of 58 FPS. And to be honest, I am kind of disappointed at CS2 because the original CSGO was supposed to be like the easiest esports title to run on any potato, but now you need to actually have a semi-decent system. After that, I tested a Cyberpunk 2077 with the low preset. With the built-in benchmark, this graphics card was able to crank out an average of 53 FPS with a minimum FPS of 32 FPS. But realistically, you should only expect about 30 to 40 FPS if you're playing in Night City. Lastly, I tested on COD Warzone, which is the update before the newest one, but you should expect about similar FPS anyways. With the basic settings and FSR 2.1 enabled to balance presets, this graphics card was able to achieve an average of 78 FPS with a 1% low of 50 FPS. And in my opinion, like, it was pretty smooth and visual was not that blurry, so I would recommend this card if you're on a really tight budget, but only strictly for Call of Duty if you have a semi-good CPU already. Overall, this Waifu triple fan all-white RX 580-2048 SP graphics card that I have on hand is a pretty good budget GPU if it was around like under $90. Because for around $100, you might as well just buy a GTX 1070 or 1080 used on a marketplace locally. And most of the time, those GPUs, even if they were used for mining, they will still last a little bit longer than these RX 580s. But with that said, if you liked today's video, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you didn't, still give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Now click on the video that's up on the screen to see a very capable GPU that came out 13 years ago.